Remember the 80s? When our biggest worry was whether we'd recorded over Mom's soap operas on the VHS? When we thought quicksand would be a much bigger problem in our adult lives? Well, strap in, because we're about to dive into some of the wildest urban legends that kept Gen X up at night during the 80s. We're counting down the most infamous urban legends of the 1980s. Some of these are so ridiculous, you'll wonder how we ever believed them. But hey, we did. Number 10. Let's start with everyone's favorite geometric nightmare, the Bermuda Triangle.
Unless I miss my guess, we've got us a Bermuda Triangle freak on board.
Well, we're going to be going right through it. So, a lot of ships went in and never came out again.
In 1945, 6 of them disappeared into thin air, inside the Bermuda Triangle.
Lost in the Devil's Triangle.
Thanks to endless TV specials and that one guy in your class who had every book about it, we were convinced this patch of ocean was eating planes and ships like Pac-Man chomping dots. The 80s made us think the triangle was basically a giant garbage disposal for boats and planes. Spoiler alert, turns out regular old bad weather and human error are way less exciting than supernatural vortexes.
It's 10 people lost in one day. What is this, the Bermuda Triangle?
Number 9, quicksand, the other silent killer.
It's quicksand!
Negative. I think this is quicksand!
Well, what do we do now, Tug? We use our basic survival skills, like yelling for help! Affirmative! Help!
Speaking of things we thought would be way more common, quicksand. Thanks to basically every movie and TV show in the 80s, we were convinced quicksand would be a daily hazard in adult life. Look, I've made it to almost 50 without encountering a single patch of quicksand. Not one! I feel cheated, honestly.
Here's a man that quicksand would spit up.
He worships the quicksand I walk on.
Number 8, the Pop Rocks conspiracy. Remember the Great Pop Rocks panic? The story was that if you mixed Pop Rocks and Coke, your stomach would literally explode. This urban legend was so powerful it nearly killed the candy company. And let's not forget poor Mikey from the Life cereal commercials. Rumor had it he died from this lethal combination. Actor John Gilchrist is very much alive, and no amount of Pop Rocks and Coke can make your stomach explode, though it might make you burp like crazy. Number 7, Bloody Mary. Now this is where it gets good. Bloody Mary, the ultimate sleepover challenge. Stand in front of a mirror, lights off, say Bloody Mary 3 times, and, well, none of us ever made it past 2 because Jill always screamed and turned the lights on. But we were sure that 3rd time would have summoned something terrible. Number 6, the Paul is Marilyn rumor. Here's one that's pure 80s gold. The rumor that Paul Pfeiffer from the Wonder Years grew up to become Marilyn Manson. Never mind that the math didn't add up. Never mind that they look nothing alike. We believed it because, well, someone's cousin's friend who went to school with them said so, and that was good enough for us. Number 5, Rod Stewart's stomach pump. Now this one's a bit gross, folks. The rumor that Rod Stewart had to have his stomach pumped for, well, let's just say it involved sailors and leave it at that. There were also versions that involved a dog. This urban legend was so widespread that Stewart himself had to address it years later. And it wasn't true. It was a revenge tactic from his former publicist.
To get his stomach pumped after an encounter with sailors at a gay bar.
This is actually what happened. I used to have this guy who worked for me. He was a gay publicist. He's dead now, so he won't be watching. And when I had to fire him because he did something terrible, which I won't go into. So he wanted revenge. So he started this rumor about me, you know, and it was horrible because my kids were at school, and so that is definitely not true.
Yeah, but it just kept going on, and it became accepted, right?
No, it was never accepted. I mean, I was as heterosexual as they come.
Okay, all right.
Number 4, the Richard Gere story.
Like Richard Gere's gerbil impressed his day.
I mean, you can only hear that Richard Gere gerbil story so many times before you have to start believing it.
Well, so is Richard Gere, and you should have seen that gerbil in the wedding dress.
Speaking of rumors that wouldn't die, the Richard Gere gerbil story. You know the one. We're not going into details here, you're welcome, But this might be the first celebrity rumor that went viral before viral was even a thing. And just like today's viral stories, it was completely made up. Number 3. The song In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. According to Playground lore, it was about Phil watching someone drown or seeing someone who could have saved someone from drowning or something along those lines. The story had more versions than a game of telephone. Instead of contacting authorities, Phil waited several years and invited this guy to one of his concerts. And during the song, Phil shines the light on the guy, and we all knew that drum break was the moment Phil spotted the guy, and he sang the song to him. Except, it wasn't true at all.
I know. Unfortunately, none of it's true.
Number 2. The Wizard of Oz hanging. This one still makes the rounds. The mysterious hanging munchkin in The Wizard of Oz. Never mind that the film was made in 1939, and we discovered this urban legend in the 80s, thanks to VHS and endless TV reruns. Turns out it was just a bird on the set. But try telling that to your friend who swore they could totally see it. Honorable mentions. Faces of Death. This movie was like the holy grail of forbidden videos. This movie was the dark web before the web ever existed. It was such a big deal to watch this at slumber parties if you could talk a parent into renting it. Certain scenes haunted me forever. I was so relieved to learn that half of the scenes were fake, especially that poor monkey scene.
It was a trained monkey, actually, and the guy who's in the film with the turban and the beard is actually the trainer. And
now here's one that somehow made America's nicest neighbors seem even more impressive. The rumor that Mr. Rogers was a Navy SEAL sniper with confirmed kills. According to the rumor, those cozy sweaters were covering up military tattoos. Some versions even claimed he'd wear his signature long sleeves to hide his deadly sniper markings. Sorry to burst your bubble, but Fred Rogers was never in the military. He went straight from college into TV work. Though honestly, the fact he was just genuinely that nice is probably more remarkable than any military career could have been. You're a kid in the 80s, goofing around with your friends, and someone dares you to make the ugliest face you can. You scrunch up your nose, stick out your tongue, and just as you're about to win the dare, someone sneaks up behind you and gives you a good old smack on the back. Suddenly, panic sets in. What if your face really does stay that way? Parents and teachers would often use it as a playful warning to discourage kids from making silly faces that might be seen as disrespectful or rude. And now for the moment we all have been waiting for. Number 1. The Ghost Boy and 3 Men and a Baby. This one had everything. A popular movie, a clear screenshot you could pause on your VCR, and a tragic backstory about a boy who died in the apartment where they filmed. Except it was actually just a cardboard cutout of Ted Danson. Way to ruin the mystery. Reality. Looking back, these urban legends say more about us than anything else. In an era before instant fact-checking, before smartphones and Wikipedia, we filled in the gaps with our imagination. And you know what? Maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. Sure, we believe some pretty ridiculous stuff, but these stories connected us. They gave us something to talk about at lunch, something to debate on the playground, something to keep us up at night during sleepovers. So here's to the urban legends of the 80s, to the stories that made us wonder, made us scared, and mostly made us gullible. They might not have been true, but they sure made growing up more interesting. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like and subscribe. And hey, share your favorite urban legend in the comments below. I bet there are some good ones I missed. Bye!